can do that. Now, we're going to add charges for Craig. We had put Craig in previous. We're going to go to F3 accounts. I'm going to push the F3 on the keyboard. It will call up Craig Parks's account information screen. There's nothing here. So what I'm going to do, I want to add charges. We can print a ledger, print balance. Look at the charges by date of service view. There's a difference between date entered and date of service. We can add charges, add payments, print a bill for just this one patient, print insurance for just this one patient, see a list of when we filed insurance for this one patient, and print look at when we've sent a billing statement for this patient. We're going to add charges. The charge header comes up, very first thing. We need to know why we're at what type of charges we're adding. So we're going to press insert. And we're going to get the charge header information. We can assign a name to this. I'm going to say that this is a ankle injury. Okay. Date of illness or injury, I'm seeing him today. Sometimes you'll know that he injured himself on the 15th. If you know that, you can put it in. If not, leave it for the date that you saw them. You may know, and if you have a 1500 form in front of you, there's a field for date of same or similar illness. You might know that he injured himself back in July for the same thing. If he was disabled, you can put that in, start of disability, and you would select a date. If you don't want to select a date, you press the escape key. Date return to work is if the patient was on disability, when did they return to work? Date admitted hospital, date discharge hospital, referring physician if you have one. You can use the down arrow. We don't have any referring physicians in the system. You could add one at this time. I'm going to go ahead and say close. Now, supervising physician is seldom used. You'd have a supervising physician maybe if it was a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant and they were being supervised by someone. Box 19, prior authorization number. You may have a prior authorization number from the insurance carrier. Box 19 is a free-form text field. And on the insurance form, there is a box 19. Prior authorization 2 would be if you had a secondary insurance carrier and they gave you a prior authorization number. Diagnosis code 1 is the primary diagnosis for this patient. Now, I have a list of diagnosis codes included with the system. Diagnosis codes are not copyrighted. CPT or procedure codes are copyrighted by the AMA. I can say it. If I type SP, it will go to sprain. No, I'm sorry, I forgot I'm by the code. Let's go back to the description and we'll type SPR, and then we go to the sprain. We're seeing him for a sprained ankle. We don't have a prior authorization number. The patient might also have some other problems. Maybe he has, let's go by the code, and maybe we know that he has abnormal labs. You can click on that. If you know the code, I can type 792, and we'll accept that for now. If you had a fourth diagnosis, you could put that in. Was the injury or illness caused by employment? Was it caused by accident? Was it caused by auto? or was it an emergency? If it was, you would click the one that's appropriate. If you click on auto accident, they want you to put in the state where the accident occurred. Let's say he had the accident in Texas. If the patient was it was not, and let's say it was an emergency also. If the patient was admitted to the hospital, you want to put in which hospital. You can click on the down arrow. We don't have any hospitals. You would add the hospitals in your area. The date, the signature on file. Again, look at a 1500. You'll see there's a box, signature on file, meaning that the patient has authorized you to give information to the insurance carrier, or perhaps to the employer. The date that they signed the authorization, and did they sign for payment to be sent to you? If you leave this box out, the payment will go to the patient. The other fields on this screen are seldom used. Hearing or vision, prescription given. You relinquished care for some reason. In other words, you do not want to see this patient again. Was the patient pregnant? Date last seen. Outside labs. If you sent outside labs and you knew the amount, you could put that in. Now I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now we have a charge header. Sometimes it's hard to remember. We went through all this because we're adding a charge. There may be many of these. Maybe he came in for an ankle injury this time. He had the flu a week ago. And maybe he had a pre-employment physical a month ago. I'm going to select the ankle injury. Now I get to the patient account charge screen. And here we say that this is Craig Parks. He's got Medicaid and he's in collections. These are the 3 diagnosis codes we put in. This is the date entered. We're entering these charges today. If he had a separate facility, maybe we're seeing him at the Rio Rancho facility, we would put that in. If he had a unique account type, we would put that in. Almost every one of my customers uses the HCFA 1500. The UB04 is used by small clinics and hospitals. I'm going to insert a charge. The default date of service was today, but we're behind. We saw this patient, I'm clicking the down arrow, we saw him on 12/24. I could have typed in 12/24. Now we have 1 unit. If you have multiple procedures of the same CPT code, you would change that. CPT code 99213, and that is found under the utility menu. CPT codes are copyrighted by the AMA. These are the different charges that I could put in. I can add a CPT code. I'm going to say 99214. Revenue code is for UB92s. I'm going to say this is an extended office visit. Default place of service is 11. Default type of service is 1. On the utility menu, there is a list of type of service and place of service. This list is in alphabetical order. I'm going to press the escape key to close that. If there's always a modifier 1 associated with this, you could put that in. If there is always a modifier 2, you could put that in. Let's say that the default office amount is $35. If it's Medicare, it's $24. If it's table 1, remember on the patient screen we could set up unique tables, maybe they get a special rate of $20. It's table 2, we're charging them more. Table 3, we're going to leave blank. This charge is usually associated with the doctor. If it was a lab charge, you would put lab. This helps you when you can run some reports. The expected and expected to are seldom used, but you could put what you expect to receive. You're charging $35. but you know you're only going to receive 15. You can put that in if you wish. So now I'm going to exit here, and I'm going to delete. Well, I'll leave that alone. What we'll do is we're going to change, because you notice it didn't put any charge amount in. I'm going to come back to this field, 99214. Now it put in the charge amount. Modifier 1, modifier 2. We're seeing this person for, I'm going to tab. He has 3 diagnoses. We're seeing him for 1 and 3. We're seeing him because he has a sprained ankle and he had some sort of abnormal finding. Tab over. You could enter a co-payment amount here. I recommend that you don't, and I recommend that you don't put a credit adjustment in, but you could. You might say the charge is $35, the patient had a copay of $20, and I'm going to write off $15. That takes care of the account at one fell swoop, and you're done. This is the place of service, type of service, a reference. We might say I don't know what to say. We'll just say test. Now, when I push the down arrow, I go to the next line, and it remembers the date of service. I can come over here. I can put in another CPT code, because you may see the same patient for 2 or 3 different things. Now I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to accept this. I only put in one thing that had a charge. So here's the patient ledger. It shows that this is a charge. We saw him on 12/24. We entered the information on 12/26. It was on ticket number 3. You don't get to change that. The doctor was RP, 99214, $35. No payment, credits, or debit adjustment. A debit adjustment is typically a bounced check. The balance for this patient is $35, which is also shown here. Now I'm going to close this.